chanting on behalf of the forefathers, emphasizing a dialogue with the invisible, conversation with God, being sun-eyed overcomers, triumphing over dark entities, anti-life forces, sin on the land, unresolved issues, and a demonic switching station. To wrest, deliver the land, and all who live on it from out of the kingdom of darkness, and restore it to the kingdom of light, so that everyone may renounce all present idolatry and return to worship, to keep the commandments of the only God, the sovereign Lord, the Holy One of Israel, and his Son, Jesus Christ, in the power and love of the Holy Spirit. This is the vision of the intercessory group and the apocalyptic starlighter. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sins and heal their land.
Apparitions appear grey like mirror reflecting. All's not what it seems, entranced like stairs beholding. The starling bird trills, the minor bird sings. Old scattered rubbish, you've lost your zing. Those heavy vibes in airy mists of Frankton. Those heavy vibes in airy mists of Frankton. Ghost trains roll on as they do in airy mists of Frankton. Ancient swampy ruins, old-fashioned houses, and airy mists of Frankton. Black-laced windows, bleak old roads, and airy mists of Frankton.
King Jesus is the rider on a white horse in front of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. God uses natural disaster to bring us to repentance. Christ, arising within the hearts of his people, overcomes political Babylon, persecution, death and Hades, and the bitter, dark experiences of life. Revelation 19, verses 14, says, "And the armies of heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine white linen." The second picture depicts Christ as the sovereign Lord of all, visible and invisible, with the praying hands depicting a heart fully yielded to Christ. The New Testament Reigning in Grace Ministries, transforming people from the guttermost to the uttermost, is holding a 2-part seminar to be held at 63 Kent Street, Frankton, 10 o'clock, Sunday. The seminar includes all-inclusive right division, emphasizing Old and New Testament and Paul's Gospel. Secondly, grief remembrance healing service, committing loved ones to the Lord, dealing with the roots and causes to wounds, emotional wounding recovery, setting up Ambassador Key to Hope buddy support processes, trauma recovery rituals, and bereavement facilitation. If you would like to host a meeting at your church, in a hall, or at home, phone Jack Gielan 07 848 1833. You can actually see from behind the pub over here.
Oh, yes.
Down onto the railway track.
Yes.
And over to that tower.
Uh-huh.
So you get a good view of everything from here. This is where the theatre used to be.
Mm.
And over there to Parangi.
Yeah.
Right over there in the distance. Okay, and just around here, it's just over to that building on this side. You can see the tower over there.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the office where I used to be a couple of years ago. I used to hear noises in the evening like clicking tracks, and I used to see manifestations around here too at the same time. And one time I experienced in here a white rod going down there, and kind of what I felt was the finger of God. It's kind of like a white light that came down over there. We were studying supernatural phenomena at the time, but I used to run the Reigning and Grace Ministries from here. I was pastor of the Reigning and Grace Ministries, and we used to minister to people from the guttermost to the uttermost, minister to mental health. We had fun, food and fellowship evenings here also, and so it was a wonderful ministry while I was here, and ran the New Zealand Suicide Prevention Trust too at the same time. Okay. In 1822, Honi Heke attacked this pa with muskets and defeated the Waikato tribes. The impact of bloodlust, utu being the spirit of revenge, and cannibalism needs to be repented of and the land cleansed. The intertribal fighting, along with the bad feeling after the confiscation, left much rejection, oppression, shame and bitterness among the Maori people living here. The small amount of money given back to Tainui in recompense for land taken cannot outweigh the true devastation experienced through history. Thousands of Maoris were converted to Christianity prior to the confiscation of the land, which produced shame, rejection, and oppression. The betrayal by missionaries revealing Maori whereabouts to troops, the division between Catholics and Protestants made Maori people backslide into idolatry. There is a need for the body of Christ, held at ransom by leadership, to lay aside their agendas and come together on the basis of Christ and pray. History repeats itself with a minority in power always oppressing the poor. On the 20th of November 1863, 4 gunboats and 1,500 British soldiers attacked 250 Maori warriors behind formidable earthworks. Among them were Tawhio and Weremu Tamihana, the Kingmaker. Both sides suffered casualties of about 50 deaths as well as those wounded. The full size of the British Army in total was 11,000 troops, with a total of 4,000 warriors on the Maori side. The Maori War fatalities were 747 Maori deaths, 400 British deaths. Overall, the Maori won a psychological victory using anti-artillery bunkers, withdrawal, surprise attacks, and basic, efficient, effective resistance. The war started in Ngaruawahia in 1845, when Honi Heke burnt down the flagstaff. Honi Heke and Kowati fought at Pukitutu, near Kaikoui, then at Ohauai on the 24th of June 1845, where 100 warriors fought against 600 troops and 250 crack troops, killing 100 men. It was a victory for the Maori people. Governor Fitzroy lost his position due to incompetence at the time. Then the battle took place at Ruapeka, then on to Rangiriri, Patarangi, Rangiawahia, and then Orakau. There were battles fought in Taranaki against Taitokawara, and Tukuti also fought against the British, attacking a town on the east coast. Tikuti started the Paimaria faith with the symbol of the lunar rainbow used. Parahaka was a community set up to offer peaceful resistance to the British. Ruakinana objected to confiscation at the settlement on the east coast just prior to the First World War. My conclusion is, we have paid the price going through a civil war, a social revolution, and our own struggle for identity and meaning in life. We are God's own, a nation who's come to maturity. We need a constitution to embody the rights of all New Zealanders. We need a New Zealand Day to honour our own past and history. A network of redoubts connected places and points around the Waikato. The point at Ngaruawahia, where the Waikato meets the Waipa River, being the main means of transportation in the old days and the place where the Maori king resides. The redoubt on the hill in Victoria Street, Hamilton, dominated the early settlement. The bridge linking East and West Hamilton, symbolising the friendly rivalry of East and West Hamiltonian. Profile Investigator on Lemington Bridge, Cambridge, investigating number of suicides from the bridge. A memorial at the graveyard recalls many mysterious drownings in the old days. TB victims and returned wounded soldiers from the First World War were sent here. Mangakawa, Hope Hill, was the site of Maori Parliament where hundreds gathered with tikuti. Von Tempski's troops, the bushrangers, played cricket here. Alexandra Redoubt at Patarangi, the site of 6 Maori offensive positions. Cameron avoided these and went for Maori men, women and children at Rangiriri, trying to bring the war to a swift close. 40 Maori warriors were killed in the Waitiri stream 200 metres from here during a major battle. British troops buried here at Patarangi. Maori civilization here goes back to the 1500s. Urenuku, the Maori rainbow god, was found here. A totem with 4 plumes sticking out. Artillary used in the Maori Wars. Von Tempski, Pakeha warrior folk hero, captain of the bushrangers. Rangiawahia. It was here that a Catholic church was burnt down with Maori people still in it. A big settlement of flour mills, orchards and a banking system, plus a mission station were here prior to the confiscation. A monument in honour of the Battle of Oahu. Rewi Maniapoto had a psychological victory over the British as he escaped with his people to the King Country, and he spoke out the words, "We will never give up." Rewi Maniapoto Monument in Kihikihi. The town was ransacked and burnt by the British in early times. Pictures of Governor Grey, Rewi Maniapoto and Hauhau from Taranaki, who claimed Michael the Archangel appeared to him while drinking blood from a skull, repeating the phrase, "We will never surrender to the British." Today I'm interviewing Keith Smith. Your great-grandfather, Samuel Mitchell, received the Victoria Cross for bravery. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Samuel was captain of the foretop on HMS Harrier, which was one of the ships that was sent by Governor Grey to Tauranga to have a crack at the Maori there who was causing them some grief. And as a result of this, and because he was alongside as acting coxswain to his commander, Commander Hay, right, he was at his side, Commander Hay's side, when they went into the park. Now the palisades were blown apart by the howitzers and all what other artillery they had, the British. There was a rush of officers into the park, and in that rush 9 officers were downed by musket fire. So the British fell into disarray. And that disarray meant that Sam, whose commanding officer, was severely wounded. He dragged him out of the park, and as a result of that, Commander Hay insisted to his other officers that were alive that he should be seen to be getting a reward for this.
Yes.
And the reward being, I want him to have the Victoria Cross for his absolute bravery, because it must have been quite horrendous with the firepower. So Samuel was awarded the Victoria Cross as a result of this famous battle, and that's just a copy of it, along with the New Zealand Maori Wars medal.
And it actually, apparently it says for valour.
For valour. All Victoria Crosses have that described.
And it's got a picture of a lion on it, has it?
Yes, it has. There's the British lion on the Victoria Cross. It's a simple medal. It's made from a cannonball from the Crimea Wars, a Russian cannon, and all Victoria Crosses are made from the same metal, from the same ball.
And apparently this was the last chivalrous battle.
It was indeed. It was the last chivalrous battle ever fought by the British, and it was the last chivalrous battle because the Maori chief, through Hinari, he was Rewi, he got his fellow Hinari, who could read, write and do all sorts of things because he had been educated by Bishop Selwyn, to send a message to Governor Grey that the British would be the last chivalrous battle, because he said, we will give you water, we will not kill the wounded if they don't raise weapons.
That's very good of him.
If you reverse the butt of your rifle towards us, we'll take that as your surrender. And he said the other important thing was they wouldn't kill the women and children. They would be free of anything from the battle. And the other interesting thing was that the Maori chief built a track down to the sea, so that the British could come up and have a crack.
So the Maoris were honourable fighters.
Absolutely. And of course, because it was the last chivalrous battle fought by the British, it became quite meaningful. However, in saying that, it was meaningful on the point that the British were defeated. They were defeated by 250 Maori versus 1,700 British. And that was the thing. The important part of that defeat, I think, was the killing of all the officers. And that sent the normal troops into a great state of disarray.
And the Maoris were dug in.
Absolutely fortified, the Maori. He had a very, very good engineer, obviously, the Maori chief. And there was no bearing. No one was killed by that terrible, terrible firepower, because they were all virtually underground.
Right.
And in drawings that one can see of the pa just after the battle, you can see that the Maori had really dug in. There were canals. The Maori lost nothing there. He lost it 6 weeks later when Colonel Greer caught up with him to Te Pahu or wherever, further down south.
Right.
And he didn't want to fight them, but he had his orders. And in that battle, Rewi, the Maori chief, and Hinari, who wrote the orders of chivalry, they were killed in that battle. And the Maoris, not long after they were killed, they actually surrendered. And then at the end of the day, peace was made, it was settled, and everything closed down.
But later on, the land was confiscated off the Maori people, so they lost there. But through the treaty, they were recompensed later on. And so the Maori are in good stead today. So while you could say they lost, they didn't lose.
Well, what happened, of course, most of the land was cut. This was all over the fact that the Bay of Plenty Maori, according to Governor Grey, was supplying weapons and arms to the Waikato Maori.
Yeah.
Because they had a ship. A lot of people don't realise that the Maori were pretty smart. They didn't just have canoes in those days. And they went off to Auckland with their produce from their farms, and they grew plenty, and they came back with whatever they needed. So Governor Grey said, no, you're supplying arms to Waikato. The end of the battle resulted in the Waikato Maori losing his land.
Yeah.
It was virtually through the Battle of Gay Park. The Maori were sent off, the land was cut off, and the majority of settlers were those soldiers that actually fought at the Battle of Gay Park.
Wow.
So that's what happened. Today, of course, the Treaty of Waitangi has shown some recompense to the Maori, and Tainui, of course, is very, very wealthy as a result.
Right.
But most of them have good business sense. They have people that look after them.
So when we are coming up to today, in the light of what's going on in the world today, I believe we need to enshrine the treaty in a constitution and apply it right across the board so it becomes a partnership and cooperation. And plus we need a constitution that represents equal and human rights before the law, so we're all equal. And so we need to ask the question, with a New Zealand Day, having role models representing courage, hope, heroism, who are we? We all sit under the same stars in terms of our own identity. We don't trust parliamentarians, we don't trust the British. The British don't, the Maori people don't trust the British. Okay, so we need leaders of integrity, a constitution. What would you put in place in New Zealand?
Well, I think, as I said, we talk about Michael Joseph Savage, we need someone, not necessarily a parliamentarian, that we can look up to, that will show leadership.
Right.
And that will show that we are New Zealanders, we are one. Doesn't matter whether you're from Somalia or wherever you're from.
Right.
You are part of this country now. And as a New Zealander, let's put our shoulders back and show that we are connected, not disconnected.
Right.
And I think that's it. I think people who live here, we go to work today, the government's taxing the tripe out of us, there's no rebate from the governments, there's no relax on fuel. All these things make hardship for people.
And we need the government to look after the little people.
And that was the day. That's what Michael Joseph Savage did. He showed leadership, and he said, it's not the big flash man and the big flash car and the big flash house that looks like he's looking after. It's the ordinary man in the street, and we need to show that ordinary man in the street what we can achieve.
Right. And for the youth, what would you do for the youth today?
For the youth, I believe that we should bring back cadetship. I've said this before. It shows leadership. It shows a direction. Because I don't believe our youth do have that today. I mean, I have a grandson that lives with us. I mean, and I think, well, where are you heading? Where are you going?
Right.
And I said to him, I believe that the army could be a good place for you to start off with, with the trade and this and that, and all the attributes of what it's like to be in the military. He didn't want to know.
Right.
And he doesn't want to know because it's discipline.
Right.
And our children today lack it.
They do.
Now you can't go around with a wooden spoon and give them a wallop round the ear hole and say, you will do it, because that doesn't work.
The anti-smacking law stops you from
So we have to show by example.
Right.
Now that example's got to come from us, the oldies. It's also got to come from government.
Right. We need good role models.
We've got to say, hey, let's be role models for our children. Let's be role models for our wives, mothers, fathers, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But get out there and show that we are exactly that.
Right. Awesome.
It's ordinary people that make this country.
Right.
It's not the highfalutin blokes in Auckland in the finance department or whatever, or in the banks.
Yeah.
It's the ordinary man that's out there today, working away, doing a menial task.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he holds his head up high. He says, I am, what I am. I am a New Zealander, and I'm proud to be one. If we had the same in our lives as the American does, saluting the flag, there is no country on earth whose people are not more prouder than America.
We need to be proud of our own country, patriots.
And we would have to look at America and say, you must be joking, but they are proud people of that flag. And I hope when the day comes, and if we ever become a Republican, Jack,
yes,
that flag still stays.
Right.
Because it is our flag.
We need to honour that flag.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Keith Smith.
Thank you, Jack.
I was born in Hamilton as a blue baby, brought up in Pukemiro, wandering through the hills, dreaming of new horizons. Moved to Ngaruawahia, where I went to high school, played rugby with a nickname Gus, experiencing testosterone as a teenager. Moved to Waikato, where I played in a band with Maori people. Feeling alone at Te Amuta College. Shifted to Meremere, Auckland, where I had lots of friends, being a receptive individual. Then on to Northcote, where I worked as a linesman, getting into yoga, meditation, drugs, and had a nervous breakdown. I went to Wairuru, where I worked as a water plant operator, stuck inside my cell. Then on to Rotorua, where I stayed with a brother, started running and playing golf while experiencing psychosexual tension. I went back to Ngaruawahia, found the Lord, went to Faith Bible College. My parents died. I got married to Helen in Hamilton. I lost $70,000 in a company deal, sold pens for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, got involved with bloat power, suicide prevention, being an evangelist and a Republican. Heartbroken, bereaved, abandoned by those you love, facilitate release of earthbound spirits, ascend with the white dove. Victimized fathers and males, caught up in their own despair and brokenness, the multi-corporate matrix turns all against us. Nobody seems to care. Those feelings of confusion and grief, is it the matrix? Can't seem to find no relief. Those feelings of confusion and grief, is it the matrix? Can't seem to find no relief. From the darkness to the morning light, I think I'll be alright. From the darkness to the morning light, visualize mystic flight. From the darkness to the morning light, I think I'll be alright. Through the dewdrops I see glorious sight, visualize mystic flight. Nervous breakdowns, heartaches, identity crisis, feeling unresponsive, deaf, dumb and blind, treated like an outcast. Being an idealist, contemplation inspires me, giving birth to new meanings, manifest destiny, facilitation process. Those feelings of confusion and grief, is it the matrix? Can't seem to find no relief. Those feelings of confusion and grief, is it the matrix? Can't seem to find no relief. From the darkness to the morning light, I think I'll be alright. From the darkness to the morning light,
Visualize mystic flight. From the darkness to the morning light, I think I'll be alright. Through the dewdrops I'd see a glorious sight. Visualize mystic flight.
The Christian Social Services Trust, the Republicans and the New Zealand Suicide Prevention Trust are seeking to elevate the status of the underclass in order to facilitate change for marginalised men. We are concerned for the homeless and disadvantaged, for there are still too many fathers and males committing suicide and too many fatherless families. We need early intervention as well as safe houses, sheltered villages and men's refuges. The system needs specific operational procedures at the coalface put in place in order to identify those at risk in every town and city. We need to create safer communities by putting therapeutic lifelines and trauma recovery clinics in place, operating crisis intervention safe places with first response teams for emergency call-out. Injury prevention should be practiced by everyone. Crime prevention, how we drive our vehicles, mental health and well-being, drug and alcohol risk, health and safety in the workplace. Suicide prevention and injury prevention have now become everybody's responsibility. Will you play your part in creating a safer community for all? I am a pastor counsellor, Republican spokesperson for suicide prevention and mental health and the arts, identifying with New Zealand music, reflecting New Zealand culture and identity.
Rolling.
The Treaty of Waitangi is supposed to be with God, Queen, and us the people. The Queen is with the ruling elite and the money grubbers of the world. The treaty is used as a gravy train by the ruling elite who use the Westminster system to line their own pockets. We need to reconcile the treaty and put together a constitution making us all equal in human rights before the law as a modern democratic republic. The treaty is with us the people of the land, the true sovereign who are kings and queens by nature. The sovereignty of the chieftainship is the correct wording. We have had our own civil war called the Maori Wars and are currently involved in a social revolution. It's time to repent and forgive and move on as one with a constitution making us all equal. We should be New Zealand patriots, living for God and country. New Zealand honours should be awarded to any leading New Zealand citizen. Unconstitutional acts can be called into question by any New Zealand citizen. Let's honour our own New Zealand Day in honour of our own past and history. Maybe Waitangi Day needs to be New Zealand Day.
And the quest shall be glorious, restful glory. A banner over the people, in him shall the Gentiles see.
Apostolic day-star ministers, like one shining.
A universal language of love, an archetypal image so sweet.
Carry him in thy bosom, nursing the bright wonder child.
I create a new heavens and earth, be
eternal youth springs from my heart.
Brought us together into the same substance and nature of our Lord Jesus
It was
Christ.
I who taught Ephraim to walk. I took him up in my arms.
Bright and morning star, the white rose, anointing, appearing in his name.
A little child shall lead them, the golden wonderboy.
Become reflectors of his glory, bearers of his image, firstborn
The
son.
wolf shall lie down with the lamb, angel spirits triumph with
He
joy.
brought forth the male child.
Need to discern between those who take drugs for mental or physical health and those who take drugs for recreational use or for criminal use against the law. And we need to explain that it's important using a spiritual model with a medical model. We're not advocating people come off drugs if they're mental health consumers and so forth, but we're advocating them using a spiritual model or alternative processes along with the medical model that they're using. And over here it says the government is puppeting to pharmaceutical companies, restricting alternative health, herbs, nutrients, mineral supplements. Doctors should be true physicians. We need to advocate and practice spiritual disease prevention, getting at the root causes as to why people need to depend on drugs, and also emotional wounding recovery. So that's with mental health consumers, working with them, and working with people who are on drugs and need to come off. We emphasize being a breviarian, getting on a natural high with Jesus, and also getting people to sign up to go through total abstinence, coming off the drugs, and signing up to a drug-free ambassador pledge. How are you?
Oh, hi.
What are you doing?
Getting high.
Yeah, I noticed that. And I noticed you got some more stuff over here too, marijuana and stuff. Do you realise that you can be a breviarian, you can get on a natural high with Jesus, you don't need to use abusive substances and so forth?
Yeah, it's just I'm quite down at the moment.
Right, why are you down?
Get high, just because I don't have a job and boredom. And,
Right.
Yeah, life's
Quite
pretty
often
much crap.
Quite often there's reasons why people get on the drugs, feeling unwanted, rejected and so forth. But we're able to go to the real causes as to why you take drugs and why you're addicted. We're going to find some solutions to your problems. And, okay, would you like to be a drug-free ambassador? Would you like to come off the drugs?
Yeah, I would.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just bring my buddy supporter over here so you can talk to you.
Hi. So you're taking the first step of accepting that you want to give up the drugs? Yeah. That's a really good start into your recovery. We want to help you to get off the drugs, and we're going to take you through the steps to help you get there to the end. Help you show you what you want.
Okay, we better take. Is she able to let go?
Are you able to let go of the substances now? Yes, I'm able. Thank you. That is the first step. You're doing well already.
Okay, with the drug-free ambassador pledge, Mary pledges that she will become a drug-free ambassador and pledge to lead the way by living a drug-free life, showing her friends that a drug-free life is more fun, helping her fellow friends, drug-free ambassadors, learning more how drugs really harm people, telling people the truth about the harmful effects of drugs, and helping their family and friends to be drug-free. Setting a good example to all children by leading the way to a drug-free New Zealand. Okay, I'm proud of you, Mary, that you're making this decision for the future. It's the best way, because you'll just leave that drug way of life behind and become a drug-free ambassador. And you'll be promoting the cause for other people. So I'll just get you to sign over here. Okay.
Well done.
Okay, so I'll leave you with Samantha, and she'll take care of some of the practical needs and help you out. Life to being drug-free. Okay.